Greetings, all. All right. Hey, I'm back. So I want to talk about some TV I've been watching. I did talk about Flash, of course, and I needed the whole whiteboard and everything. Not using the whiteboard for this. I did watch Flash this week. It was Cisco's last episode, and it was really weak. Gotta be honest, it was a really weak last episode that they gave Cisco, and I thought, wow, this is like you expect a character's final episode, and this will lead into what I'm talking about. The meat and potatoes, what I'm talking about here. The last episode for a character should be dramatic. It should be big. It should be something profound. And for Cisco, it was kind of just a freak of the week episode, to borrow a phrase from Smallville back in the day, where there was the freak of the week. It just. So, and I have been watching Lois and Superman. I really like Lois and Superman. There's one episode I have to catch up on from this week. I'm watching that with my wife. Yvonne really does like Lois and Superman as well. And yeah, so that's where we're at currently. One episode behind on that. But we finished watching Lucifer. So I want to talk about Lucifer because the second half of season 5 was released. And honestly, I thought it fixed a lot of things that went wrong. So if you have not watched Lucifer in a while, or if you haven't finished watching season 5, by all means, I highly recommend it. And then also, while I was finding a Bort license plate, which is probably going to go up here, I found this on Amazon. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah. So this is obviously a recreation of the license plate on Lucifer's car. So that's fun. And so I had to have that. I was like, yeah, that has to go on the TEG set somewhere. That's gotta go up there somewhere. So yeah, it's been an interesting season 5. So if you haven't watched it, go and do so. Pause this video, come back after, or load up the video another time. So from here on, I'm going to get into spoilers and the good and the bad of it. So the bad of Lucifer to me has been simple. All of the Kane stuff was terrible, mostly. The idea of Kane being a cop just did not make sense to me. I didn't understand. I still look back at that and I'm like, Tom Welling, I love the guy, he's great. The Kane thing didn't work at all. And yeah, and then of course Eve, his mother Eve, none of that worked with Lucifer either. I thought that Eve was not a very fleshed out character. And then in the end, it didn't feel like they added a whole lot with her either. But what they did this year for the second half of season 5 was great. So you can see that the writers had expected this to be the final season, that this is where they were planning on ending it. Because it ends on a cliffhanger, but not really. It ends on an up note, a good note. And the funny thing is that everybody had expected that Chloe and Lucifer were going to get married when they saw the title of the episode, Chance for a Happily Ever After. Or a chance for a happy ending. And so people are like, oh, so the happy ending, that would probably be him marrying Chloe. It's a good theory. Incorrect. And about 2 episodes before the end of it, I thought, yeah, they're not getting married. There's no chance they're getting married. There's no time. So unless it's a shotgun wedding because she's pregnant or something, which is not happening, then no. So the way that season 5 ends, there is tragedy. Now, I talked about Cisco, right, and how he left Flash. And it was just kind of their episode. Dan, or Detective Douche, as you may know him from the show, and it was great. What I love is that Lucifer calls him Dan, 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 and then as soon as Dan's kind of a little bit snippy, he's like, oh, Detective Douche. He goes right back to it. So they did kill Dan off. And they didn't bring him back. And apparently the actor playing Dan is going to be in season 6, but it sounds from the way that they're talking about it, it sounds like he's going to be dead, and the character arc's probably going to be him in hell trying to earn his way to heaven. And we saw at the end of season 5 that if you're in hell, you can find your way to heaven. It is possible to escape hell and go to heaven. So it's possible that there'll be an episode or 2 dealing with Dan and his own personal demons and all of this in order to earn his way to heaven. I think that the young actress playing Trixie, the daughter, I think that her reaction was fantastic. Her going to Lucifer and saying, "This can't be true, Lucifer. You can't lie. Tell me the truth about her dad." It was tear jerking. It was hard for Yvonne and I to get through that without breaking down. That was a very well written and very sobering moment in the show. And they really let it breathe, so it's not like they just killed him off and, well, we'll come back to it later. It drives me nuts when TV shows do that. They really focused in on that. Now, the only problem I had with that in the moment where I was like, well, wait, what about the case? So I like, yeah, Dan's been mortally wounded, and he's gone. He's no longer with us, and that's tragic. But are the police still investigating? Is who else is investigating? What's going on? Of course, they answered that during the funeral. Now, that funeral again was an example of how they used Tom Ellis's wonderful singing voice, which makes sense because if you know biblical lore, then you would know that Lucifer was seen as the head of the choir in heaven, and he had the most beautiful voice and all this. And I remember all this from my churchy days, right? So I thought that the way they wrote the Lucifer character was thoughtful, and I thought it was interesting how over 5 seasons you watch him evolve. And so at the end of this season, he has become God. The God thing with the goddess, that's part of where I think the weaker part was, that God's just like, well, I think I'm losing it. You're not. All right, well, I'm leaving anyways because here's my ex-wife. We're going to try to work it out. So, bye. See ya. And all the way up until the end of the season, I was like, so this is a big test, right? He didn't actually leave, right? Like, this universe could just fall to crap if you leave Michael in charge of it. So he's not... All right, he left. But again, at the end, Lucifer passes the test. So he goes to heaven to save Chloe. He has the opportunity to make her immortal and come back to life. And he does it, sacrificing himself. And he burns up in heaven. And then he comes down, apparently with God power. And there are a lot of ways they can take this in season 6. Season 6 is going to be 10 episodes. It should be absolutely fantastic. Again, I thought a lot of the weak spots in the last few seasons, and again, I say few seasons as if it's all been bad. It hasn't. There's been some really good stuff, mostly between Lucifer and Chloe. Some of the dialogue's been absolutely fantastic, and I've even watched about half of season 1 back again, and it is rewatchable. It is very entertaining, and there are moments where Lucifer will make a wisecrack and you laugh at it and you go, man, I wasn't supposed... I'm a horrible person for laughing at that comment. That's terrible. But again, with Chloe, you can see how he grows. You can see how he changes. Amenadiel, he's grown, he's changed a bit. And I mean, now they're hinting that he's going to become a cop in season 6. And again, I'm thinking, why do all of these angels want to be police officers? What it's a bizarre thing. Like you can do a lot of good just being an angel. You don't necessarily have to join the police force to do that. So I'll be interested to see where they go with that. I thought Linda was very entertaining this year. Linda was really funny. And I honestly thought that her character advanced nicely. I thought they did a good job with her. Maze has been kind of left out, dust in the wind. She's just been off on her own, and there have been episodes where I'm like, where is Maze? Where is she? And of course, they went down that bizarre road where her and Dan were bounty hunting together, which was just, that whole storyline was flat out ridiculous. That whole thing, that was when they were writing it, and I was like, okay, so whoever wrote this episode doesn't know how the Dan character's supposed to work. Because none of this is stuff that you would see Dan necessarily doing in the first couple of seasons. So when they got into all the mercenary stuff, and then you get, Eve's in there, it just, all of that just didn't make a lot of sense. I am so glad that they got season 5, part 2 done right. And I thought God was portrayed very well. There's something with Ella There's something they have to tell us what it is with Ella, because they have the musical episode, and musical episodes done right can be great. And in Lucifer, they did the musical episode correctly. They did it in a way where it was fun, it wasn't overly cheesy, they didn't overly rely on it, and the storyline advances through the musical stuff. But humans weren't supposed to have been able to see the musical stuff. Ella did. So when they were like, well, humans can't see it, but Ella did, I thought, okay, so are what are we insinuating here? First we had Azrael watching over her, and her and Azrael were friends. The angel of death, great, fine, perfect, cool. Okay, so when are we going to find out something's different with Ella? And then God, before he goes into his universe with his ex-wife, he made a point of meeting with Ella to tell her she's special. Okay, so the show needs to explain what makes her different, what makes her, and she gets into how she has all this darkness, and she has all these dark thoughts in her mind. Okay, so what is it with Ella? What are they going to tell us something, or is it just a giant going nowhere plot line? I'm curious, very curious as to what they're going to do with that. But I thought it was very well written. I thought that it was, if that had been the ending, I would have been quite happy with that. The idea that Lucifer becomes God and kind of goes, now what? That's a great idea. That is a perfect idea. That is a great way to end it, because then it can go any direction you can imagine. But if they're going to wrap it up, you've got to think it'll be about his God powers. I don't know that you need a villain for season 6. I don't think you do. And I mean, it's possible they come up with a villain, but I mean, they can still be doing the cases, I guess, although Chloe quit, right? She quit, so they won't be doing the police cases, which is okay. There was one weak spot. There was one weak spot in this season's half season, that every case directly tied into what was going on in that episode. I was like, oh, okay, so we're dealing with a father problem. Oh, we're dealing with a control problem. So this murder case just happens to fit into exactly the plot line that's going on. Well, that's handy. That's good of them. And I thought it got it was a little bit much, especially when, like, oh, and the Almighty, and I'm like, seriously, murder, his name's the Almighty. I want out. But the rest of it was so great that was just kind of more of a minor annoyance off in the corner. And for the musical episode, having Debbie Gibson as a guest star, fantastic. And she's barely in it. So they didn't rely on the nostalgia too much. They just had her there. They had her sing a song, and then she's out. So I thought that was kind of fantastic. I was like, oh, it's Debbie Gibson, and she's actually singing. There was the knock on her back in the 80s when Only in My Dreams came out and all those pop songs she was doing in the 80s. There was the belief she couldn't actually sing. There was a lot of people who said Debbie Gibson isn't actually a good singer. She can't actually sing. So in this musical episode, I thought she did pretty well. I don't think all of them necessarily were singing their parts. I'd be interested. I'll take a look into that and find out. That would be something that'd be fun to look at. But Tom Ellis is fantastic. Everything he does is awesome. I honestly think he would make a great James Bond. I'll throw it out there. I'll say it. Tom Ellis as Bond would be perfect. But I think Tom Ellis could do anything. I think he could be a supervillain in Marvel movies, and it would be great. And I'm well aware that Lucifer, the character, is like a DC affiliated via Constantine character, and I would love to see a Lucifer cameo in Legends of Tomorrow. I think that could absolutely work. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Apparently, season 6 is likely to release late this calendar year, and I'll be anxious to watch that and review that for all you fine people as well. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts if you watched Lucifer Season 5, the second half of it, and what you thought of it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.